Welcome back, guys, to another Clash Royale video, and today we have some balance changes to talk about. So I want to share with you guys my thoughts on this round of balance changes, but also feel free to let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you like this round of balance changes? Do you dislike it? Do you think there's stuff missing? Like I said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. But the first change here is the much awaited giant nerf, reducing the health by 5%. Now this might not seem like a big enough nerf, but in my opinion, the giant wasn't the main reason the giant poison decks were so overpowered. I think it's a lot of the support troops and the other cards in those decks that made the giant poison decks what they were. Stuff like the poison spell, the bowler, the mega minion, as well as the ice spirit. All of those were more to blame with the giant poison era than the giant itself. So I think this is a pretty good nerf. You have to remember there's a very fine line with something being overpowered and underpowered, and if you nerf the giant too much, it's going to feel impossible to get the giant past defenses into a tower, and then what happens is everyone switches to defense heavy decks because they can't get any troops past defenses. So I'm pretty happy about this nerf. I think a 5% health nerf is perfect, and I would rather them make small changes at a time than nerf it into oblivion all at once and then having the giant become useless. Now the next nerf here is the one that I was most excited for, and that is the nerf to the poison spell. Now this is a pretty huge nerf, guys. The poison spell would now no longer slow movement speed or attack speed, it'll only do damage. Now I'm currently undecided as to whether or not this nerf was too extreme or if it was justified. Hopefully we do see more people using fireballs and arrows and some of the other spells instead of everyone using poison. Let me know what you think about this one in the comment section below. Do you think it was too extreme or was it justified? Now this next change here is the one that I'm most excited about, and it's something that I've been waiting for a very long time, and that's to the Elixir collector, and they're making it a riskier card to use, increasing its elixir cost from 5 to 6, but also increasing the elixir you get back from it from 7 to 8. So you still get the 2 elixir back from it, but it has a higher initial elixir cost, increasing the risk factor. And I also noticed that they didn't increase the health of the Elixir collector with this change, so now it'll be easier to get positive elixir trades with spells on pumps like the rocket, the lightning, or even stuff like fireball, stuff like that. And like I said, I'm very happy about this change. This is something that I've wanted for a very long time. I often thought the Elixir collector was way too dominant and way too popular, becoming almost a mandatory card in every single deck. And in my opinion, I feel like the Elixir collector should only be used for heavy decks like Golem decks and Lava Hound decks and P.E.K.K.A decks, and it's currently being used by everyone, including fast cycling hog decks, fast cycling miner decks and stuff like that. And I often thought they should change the Elixir collector to scale with the average elixir cost of your deck, and that way it's only useful for heavy decks, but it can't really be used effectively with faster cycling decks because they're already fast enough. So I think this is a pretty positive change to the game. There were often battles where both players started out placing pumps and then just cycled through their cards and placed down more pumps, and it really slowed down the gameplay, and it was kind of boring watching people pump up after pumping up and waiting for the double elixir period before they did anything. So like I said, hopefully this is a positive impact on the game. But the next change here is kind of surprising to me, and that comes to the log, and it now rolls faster and further, and it has 9% increased damage. Now, don't kill me here, but this is just my opinion. I think the log was perfectly balanced before this round of balance changes. I thought it was a niche card that performed very well in certain decks and against certain decks. For example, it pushed back giants, giant skeletons, golems, P.E.K.K.A s, and the log is extremely effective against hog cycle decks. Like I said, it's kind of a niche card, performs very well against certain strategies, but that's just my personal opinion. It probably could be because I don't actually have the log myself, and I often used to think the Sparky was balanced or even overpowered until I got my hands on it myself, and I realized how hard it is to use effectively and how easy it is to actually counter the Sparky. So let me know what side you're on. I know a few people on my clan this morning were discussing the log debate, saying it didn't need to be buffed or it did need to be buffed. Let me know what you think in the comment below. But moving on here, the next change is a pretty interesting one, and it comes to the skeleton army. Elixir cost being decreased to 3 from 4, skeleton count being decreased to 16 from 21, but the skeleton level being increased by 5. And this is actually a pretty cool change, guys. I think the elixir cost being reduced to 3 will make it a much easier card to use, and it'll help differentiate it from the graveyard card that's coming out here soon. But just a random thought that I had here, Will the Zaspel be able to one-shot the Skeleton Army at tournament standards after the update? I have no idea, but I think it would be pretty cool if the Skeleton Army at tournament standards wasn't actually zappable, and that would make it pretty useful. But moving on here, we have a minor change to fix a bug that existed with the Ice Golem. The death damage will now also damage flying troops. But more importantly here, they're also adding this effect to the Golem, and I think this is a pretty strong buff to the Golem, because now, if your opponent is using like Minion Horde to counter your Golem, you can probably use a Zaspel Golem Explosion combo to take out that Minion Horde and then do work to the tower, whereas previously, the Minion Horde would have also finished off the Golemites. So pretty low-key change there, but I think it'll end up being a pretty strong buff to the Golem and make it a much more effective strategy. So that's the end of the list. I'm pretty surprised about how small this list is. Honestly, in my opinion, there's a lot more cards that need some balance changes. Stuff like the Ice Spirit I think is way too strong for only a 1 Elixir cost, even though I'll be pretty sad if it gets nerfed because I use it in almost all of my decks. Like I said though, it's pretty strong for 1 Elixir cost, one of the strongest cards in this game right now, in my opinion. But there's also other cards like the Mega Minion I think is due for a small nerf. I think it's just too effective for a 3 Elixir cost card. The Bowler I think is also due for a little bit of a nerf. I think it's too strong and too tanky for the amount of splash damage and the knockback that it has. And then there's some other cards that I think are due for a buff. Stuff like the Baby Dragon and the Giant Skeleton still, in my opinion, aren't strong enough and should receive a small little buff. The Baby Dragon should be able to by itself effectively take out a Minion Horde or a pack of Barbarians pretty quickly because its role is a splash damage card, but right now it struggles to do that a little bit. And finally, that's the end of my opinions there, guys. Let me know what you like in this list, what you don't like. What are some cards that you think were due for some balance changes that weren't included in this round? Also, let's speculate here. What strategies do you think will become the new meta after this update? Personally, in my opinion, I think the Lava Hound, Lightning, Miner, Tombstone decks will become extremely popular and extremely powerful after this round of balance changes. They were already pretty low-key strong before this round of balance changes, and I also think that Siege decks might be making a comeback with the nerf to the Giant Poison. Like I said before, if people can't get troops past defenses to the tower, then they switch to more defense-heavy decks, which is why I've been seeing so many Giant Poison decks recently and no Siege decks. But with the nerf to Giant Poison, there might be a rise of more Siege decks being used. But like I said before, please let me know what kind of strategies you think will be popular after this round of balance changes. But that's it from me, guys. I'm going to go ahead and allow this replay to finish off before the video ends. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave it a like and also subscribe for more Clash Royale content. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next video.